All over our cities, along our coastlines and across our green and pleasant land, an invisible army is fighting a never-ending war. Their enemy is the filth that we create and the vermin that thrive on it. Welcome to the hidden world of the Grime Fighters. On Grime Fighters tonight, Steve from Leicester Council plays hardball clearing up after some squatters. Wolverhampton litter picker Lou gets grumpy.
Hey, give me your money.
London sewer flasher Rob tries not to contemplate breakfast.
I just don't think about this when I eat porridge.
And we're out in Newcastle with Mark and David messing about on the river. But first, up and down the country, the economic downturn is playing a massive part in increasing the pressure faced by local councils dealing with the legacy of empty properties and squatters. Here in Leicester, this newly refurbished development of 16 flats has fallen foul of the credit crunch, with all the apartments being repossessed by the mortgage companies. Today, Enforcement Officer Steve from the council, supported by the police, is here to evict some squatters who've been continually breaking into the block.
This property's been vacant for about 6 months now. It's been boarded up by various people, but we've had a problem with drug addicts going in, breaking in, and basically we're going to have to really secure it extremely well today to stop them getting back in again.
With the police gaining access to the building, a steady stream of squatters reluctantly start to appear.
Pass your stuff out, gents. Just collect your kit, fellas, and we'll just do some checks with you outside before we release you, okay? Satisfied customer. Yeah.
With a total of 4 squatters evicted from the ground floor, Steve and Sergeant Hutchins can now move on to the flats above. This time, though, a little more force is required.
Okay. Clear. Yeah, nobody in that one.
After having a look round, the police are satisfied that the rest of the flats are empty.
We're happy that these premises are clear.
With the all clear from the police, Steve can now carry out a thorough inspection of every flat and find out what surprises have been left by the squatters for him to deal with.
Oh dear.
It's not a job he relishes. In Wolverhampton, the sun is shining, and Lou and Dave, the council's proudest litter pickers, are starting yet another regular shift with a bit of a constitutional down Bright Street. Today they're accompanied by a new recruit, Simon, and for Lou, the agreeable conditions herald a good start to the proceedings.
What could be nicer? Look at the lovely sunshine and me walking down here, picking a bit of litter up. Once it's done, I'll feel as if I've done a good job. It's what they pay me for, and I'm proud of what I do. I don't care if people look down on me. This is my job, and I'm proud of it. I like doing it. No trouble at all.
So Lou's even more determined to make sure that even the smallest things won't wreck his day.
That's probably a child's rattle. I'll just put it in here just in case the child lives there. I don't want a rattle in my bag making a noise, keeping me awake. Put it with these bricks, all right. There's loads of bricks there. That'll do, lovely. Probably be through the shop window later on. Oh, here there, kid, all right, mate?
After some 20 years behind a desk, the new recruit, Simon, finds clearing the streets is making him view the world in a very different light.
I can't believe that people just discard everything. You know, they throw fag packets out the windows, bottles of pop. It is a mess. I dread to think what it'd be like if it was left for a week or so, because there's just so much rubbish.
Simon's determination to stay in work after losing his job as an architect and being prepared to pick up litter has clearly impressed Lou.
Simon's very good, actually. We've had him now 3 weeks and we're training him up. He's been used to sitting on his backside in an office and now we're out here. I think he'll make a good picker. He didn't want to be sitting at home. It just goes to prove people with education, they'll take anything on now. He's tried to bring a young family up and it's hard, it's tough out here now, but he's getting there, and fair play to the lad, he's having a go.
After only 45 minutes, Bright Street is looking spotless. Lou and the boys can now call it quits and move on to their next job. In Leicester, Environmental Enforcement Officer Steve is now starting his tour of the flats to evaluate their state after the squatter's eviction.
You can see what's happened here. This is an example where somebody's defaulted on the mortgage and somebody's been under the lock change.
These flats may all have been privately owned, but as far as the council is concerned, they represent a serious health hazard to the public, with needles and drug paraphernalia strewn throughout. And it falls upon Steve to take responsibility for the flat's future security and cleanliness.
Oh, right, the first thing that hits you when you come in here, it's that smell. It's stale urine, I think it is. Oh dear, yes. I think this is where we've been having a bit of a party by the looks of it. This is going to need to be completely cleaned out, carpets removed, so we'll have to get some skips in and do that. We can't leave this like this. There's obviously clear evidence of a substantial drug injection here, needles on the table. There's no sharps boxes, they're not disposing of them properly, so you could well find them stuck in, quite often we find them stuck in the sides of the beds and stuck under the beds into the mattress. We will have to get specialist contractors in to clear this because there's obviously a risk of needle stick injury. The other problem is because we've had drug addicts in here, we don't know what else they've been up to, so there's highly likely, there could be all sorts of things left in here. So I'm not going to delve too deeply.
But as is often the case, it's not just the needles that now constitute a health risk. The squatter's bathroom habits leave a lot to be desired.
Ah, yes, right. Oh dear. We knew they were going for the toilet somewhere. Oh dear. That's where the smell's coming from then. This is the kind of thing that we have to get cleaned up as a local authority. We can't leave this sort of stuff lying around.
It's soon apparent to Steve that most of the flats are in a potentially hazardous state. He and his team are going to have to work fast to secure the building.
It's not safe to leave it like this. We'll make it secure today, just stop the drug addicts getting back in, and then we'll take longer term action to clear it out. We can't leave a property like this in the middle of Leicester.
Not only is there the danger that someone could get hurt entering these flats, there's also the real threat of the building becoming a fire hazard. So Steve is taking no chances this time in boarding up the block. He hopes these grills will prove impregnable.
We've had panelling on there before, timber panelling before, and it just gets ripped off. This stuff is screwed to the brickwork, so it's hard work to get it off, and this should keep them out.
Steve can only pray that his team's hard work will keep the squatters out, while he serves notice on the mortgage lenders to force them to pay for the clear-up. In central London, beneath the bustling streets, there are over 40,000 miles of sewers. The upkeep of the system is down to an elite team of highly skilled technicians known for centuries as the flushers. Today, Rob, a veteran of some 40 years, and novice Dan are preparing to venture into a sewer off the Victoria embankment to confront their biggest problem. More than 90 tonnes of fat is poured into the sewers annually by London's restaurants. In the system, it congeals and causes over half the 100,000 blockages the flushers have to deal with every year.
We've had a report there's a lot of fat down here, so we're actually coming down to have a look and see how we're going to sort the problem out.
They descend with gas monitors bleeping. If there are toxic gases, they'll quickly be alerted. Rob and Dan soon stumble on an old friend.
Yeah, you've got a rat there, look. You're not going to find too many down here. They like it nice and dry. They keep up out of the way. They more likely drowned when there was the last storm. They can only hold their breaths for so long and then they drown the same as we do. Off we go.
London sewers, built in Victorian times, were mainly designed to deal with sewage. Now, as well as the fat, recent cleansing products are causing big problems.
It's the wipes and things, the baby wipes, the wipe with the baby bottoms and things like that. They just don't break down at all. They go right the way through, right the way down into the works. They all have to be taken out before the sewage is actually treated.
This build-up of fat and wipes creates a thick crust on top of the sewage flow. To gauge the extent of the problem, Rob has no option but to hop in and take a closer look.
Go on then, Dan, you can put the ladder in.
Oh, thanks. If it looks as good as it smells.
I just don't think about this when I eat porridge. It's not too solid, If we drop the flow in here and then get a jetter in here and stir it up.
Blast it through.
Yeah, blast it through.
They will be able to divert the sewage flow and then can use a power jetter to flush the crust away. But they can't combat the smell. Face masks would be useless.
When you're working in it all day long, it actually gets into your pores. And you can have a shower, 2 or 3 showers a day, and it just stays with you.
With the blockage assessed and a solution decided upon, Rob and Dan can now carry on with their inspection further downstream. Coming up, Steve's worst nightmare comes true, Rob and Dan meet some old acquaintances, and Lou stumbles across a drugs den. Throughout the country, an army of professionals are continuing to dedicate their daily lives to waging war on the nation's grime. In Leicester, a few days after evicting some habitual squatters from a newly refurbished block of flats, Environmental Officer Steve's worst nightmare has come true. Overnight, someone has managed somehow to break back into the property, and the top floor flats have been set on fire. At first light, he's on site to inspect the damage.
Oh dear, what a mess. This is what we were trying to prevent by getting the property boarded up, trying to stop all this happening. The building's not structurally safe as well neither at the moment. This is now ruined and it's going to cost a lot of money to sort it out. All these timbers have been weakened, the complete structure's going to have to be taken down and rebuilt. It's going to be an enormous cost, so it's a lot of work that could have been prevented. There's going to be a lot of toxic debt in here, I think.
It's highly likely that the whole block will now have to be demolished and rebuilt. This may be an extreme case, but it graphically illustrates what the councils are up against in their fight to keep one step ahead of the squatters and drug users. The dangers of the discarded syringes still remain.
Whilst you can't see them, we know there were needles here before, that there'll be needles everywhere, yeah, and all sorts of material washed down by the fire brigade when they put the fire out. So this material in here is contaminated. It's got to be taken out very carefully.
Until last night, Steve was responsible for an expensive clear-up of the hundreds of needles, drug paraphernalia and human excrement. Now he's left with a burnt-out building and a scene of total devastation. In Wolverhampton, litter picker Lou is also having his day interrupted by the legacy left behind by drug addicts. He and the team have been called off their regular job roster to clear a drugs den in a local park.
We've had a call at the office to say that somebody's been camping out in this particular area. I know it to be a known drug den at one time, so we're just going to have a quick nosy round. We'll try and clear this out, but we must be on our guard for needles.
Before they can get to grips with the rubbish, the boys need to make a meticulous search of the area for needles. They put them into what's called a sharps box.
Now look at that needle there. I've just picked that up out the bushes. It's got, what, a needle on over an inch long, the needle is. Fancy that just sticking into your children's body part, should I say. You'd be frightened for weeks while the tests were going on.
With the area now free from needles, they can start clearing the tree branches, revealing what seems to be the drug user's alfresco living room.
There's a settee there. We'll see if there's anybody asleep underneath it, OK? Here's a nice bit of carpet. Do you want it for your flat or what? Do you know David's that tight he wakes up in the night to see how much sleep he's lost?
These sights may be commonplace for Lou, but they constantly underline his despair of modern society.
When I was young, you could go anywhere and what have you. Where I lived, you never even locked your doors at night. But now it's a sign of the times. They're doing crime, they're robbing people's houses. Look at that, just like a cosh. Now say, you was walking down this road at night, people walking down, got no money, and pick up something like that and say, hey, give me your money. What would you do? You'd give your money to them, wouldn't you? I would. I wouldn't like that round my head. What are they doing these days?
Simon, fresh from his 20 years as an architect, seems to be settling in well to his new occupation.
Look, he's enjoying it. Hey. The other day I caught him using 2 hands.
Simon seems to have become a regular part of the team, but Lou is fully aware that this job may only be a stopgap, and he's anxious to help.
Anybody who's looking round wants a nice young lad here, do a few drawings, he's available.
Simon, though, seems pretty happy to stick around.
The office I used to work in, if you're new, you'd be lucky if anybody spoke to you for about 3 months. It's very different. I'm enjoying it. We have a good crack, so that's the main thing.
With their work practically over, all they have to do is to get the old sofa on the van.
If I was in a job moving sofas, I'd have gone and worked at DFS. But as it is, I work for Wolverhampton City Council, the best council in the land. Come on, Simon, on the van.
In central London, sewer flushers Rob and Dan are continuing their daily schedule. They're about to look at another sewer run off the Victoria Embankment in Westminster. Descending into this Victorian brick-built sewer, it's soon obvious that conditions are quite different from the modern, concrete-clad system they came across this morning.
The fungi that you see growing here grows on the fat and slime that's on the wall of the sewer. I don't think it's edible. I'm not going to try it to find out. I mean, as you can see, the flow coming through here is peak flow at the moment. We're, sort of up past 12, 1 o'clock. Everybody's going to lunch, everybody's having their breaks and going to the toilet. This is sewage, as you can see, but in that there's fat, there's rags and everything else that shouldn't come down into the sewer system.
As they go further down the flow to the bottom of the stairs, they can retrieve some samples from the build-up for closer inspection. The main cause of the problem, as ever, is thousands of baby wipes that don't degrade, and the congealed fat from the restaurants above.
This is the solid fat that's been down here for quite a while. You can see it there, that's solid. And this stuff is a mixture of fresh fat, and then this is all a mixture of toilet paper and everything. That's a wipe.
As well as the fat and wipes causing so many problems, there are other regular blockages that Rob can't really do much about.
Well, I'm not the Pope and I wouldn't sort of say don't use condoms, but try using maybe a few less. But I don't know what the answer is to that one. I suppose we'll have to live with that. You wonder the size of the people that the condoms have actually been used by, because they're bloody enormous. Might fit Danny. Danny's been up Leicester Square. He's saying he was up there the other week, so, might be one of his down there.
I'll put it in the bin.
That's it. Bin it, don't block it. That's it. Danny's got the motto.
Dealing with the unpleasant contents of the sewers is most people's idea of hell. But to Dan, with only 2 years' experience on the job, life couldn't be better.
It's like a bit of a thrill, isn't it? If you had to think about the job that you do and what you were actually involved in, it will probably turn a lot of people's stomachs. There's not many people get to walk around under the streets of London. There's so much goes on that so many people don't know about.
So, after a detailed assessment of the build-up, Rob now has a plan of action.
That extends for about, I would say, about 30 or 40 metres up the line. It goes right the way through down the embankment. I would imagine there's somewhere in the region of a few tonnes of fat anyway. So basically, we're going to get a jetter in and we'll flush that through.
Rob and Dan can now head back to the surface and make their report. In the coming weeks, a team will be back to lower the flow in the system and flush the build-up away. The career of a grime fighter doesn't always mean working in horrendous conditions. Here in Newcastle, David and Mark spend their day languidly cruising the River Tyne aboard the good ship Clearwater. It's the pride of the Clean Tyne project. The boat is specifically designed for lifting all manner of debris and rubbish out of the river. For David, the job is everything he wanted.
It's a dream job for me, because I used to live on the river there, further down South Shields, and when I was a kid, I used to play on the river, and being young, it was always a dream to work on the river, and it come true.
Mark is also grateful for the life the job has given him.
I've been on the river all my life, and it's just it's one of them jobs. When I seen it, I had to advertise it, and I would have cried, I think, if I hadn't got it.
Their haul is normally made up of tree trunks, old fridges and traffic cones. But that's not all.
We've had a sheep, we've had a pig, pretty disgusting, really smell. You've got to really have strong guts for the job when you get things like that,
Even after light rains, the river this morning still offers up a steady stream of debris.
Yeah, we've got a tree here, small tree. There's plenty of these in the river, like.
These smaller branches are common, but after storms, they can get an awful lot bigger, and David's got the pictures to prove it.
That's where all the floods in September. I bet you that must have been about a ton, maybe more, 2.5 maybe.
The weather may not always be this forgiving, but David and Mark are making the best of the calm conditions, stopping ashore at certain hotspots where, due to the current, huge amounts of rubbish regularly collects.
You see the variety of stuff that we'll get with plastics and that, you know, road going, baskets, everything.
On the Tyne, there's still a constant flow of rubbish, but it was far worse 10 years ago.
We get like a skip and a half or 2 skips a day. Yes, it's still one of the cleanest rivers, like, you know, in Britain.
The water is now so clean that in 2001, the Tyne recorded the highest salmon catch by anglers in the whole of England, with over 2,000 salmon caught from its waters. And this makes Mark very proud.
I've been on a river all my life and I've seen the river progress from being the way it was years ago to where it is now. So it gives us a little bit of sense of pride that I'm helping to make the river the way it is.
So with the skip full, Mark and David can head back and unload their haul. A satisfying end to another perfect day tootling about on the Tyne. Since the filming of the programme, the burnt-out block in Leicester still awaits demolition. Sadly for Lou, litter picker Simon has returned to a career as an architect, and the blockages in the sewers were quickly washed away by the flusher teams.